guys, this is Anthony Bandiero, attorney and senior legal instructor, joining my good friends Zach and John for another Search and Seizure show. We just got done doing a webinar on that Felix versus Barnes U.S. Supreme Court case on use of force. Now we're going to transition to just kind of open mic, answer questions. John is in Redding, California. He just got done teaching. What'd you just teach today, John? Today's Wednesday, so what, traffic stops?
It was advanced traffic stops. We had a whole lot of fun, a lot of good questions, a lot of good engagement. And I'll tell you, Anthony, the officers up here, they are very excited about advanced interdiction case law. They said they need to get it up here.
Yep, absolutely. That's probably some bread and butter up there. Zach, are you in Virginia, Zach, right now?
I'm at home in Virginia. Yeah.
Must be nice. Well, I'm at home too. So I got this is not my hotel room unless it's a green screen. So guys, let's kick it off here. So the way this works is we have a few hundred people that are on right now. This is live. We're gonna turn on some microphones. We're gonna hear their question, and we're going to answer the question. For those who have a question live, they get a blue to gold prize. Manny probably doesn't get anything because he's probably has the whole catalog by now. Let's see. Hold on, a lot of people here. Let me find you. Hold on, Manny. Stand by. Stand by. There we are. And then while Manny, just 1 second. People are asking about the report writing class. The report writing class is off the hook. It's one of my favorite classes to teach. Rick just put the link in the chat. What's up, Manny?
Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for the webinar. So
Gentlemen,
it was
you're very polite. Yes. What you got?
Well, we got an email actually about this from our captain. And, like, hey, guys, like, this is probably going to be change some things, etc.
Yep.
So during our roll call, a lieutenant and I, he's actually on here. I think he is. I don't know. Lieutenant left, the lieutenant from my shift commander. But we were talking in roll call about this because we brought up vehicle pursuits, and because Maryland's like, we pursue.
You're careful.
Carefully,
it's Maryland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And any police involved theft in Maryland, the Attorney General's office investigates it immediately. Most of them have been like, the guy died. If the person died in the car from pursuit, it's just to see if like the officer is liable for it. And most of them have been cleared. Like, well, I mean, it was his choice to run.
There's no causation there, right, Manny? There's no causation. You didn't push him into another car or push him off the edge.
Right. Well, but pursuits have been a big thing with us lately because, like, some pursuits, some rookies pursue and they sound crazy.
Yeah,
they are.
Control. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, like, how, we're Fourth Circuit. So, like, when it comes to vehicle pursuits, like, what do you think this, like, let's say use of force does happen, but let's say it's just a pursuit for a stolen vehicle. The underlying crime is just a property crime. But now, what if we have a organized auto theft crew that's been hitting? There's like, all right, we got to get these guys stopped, and force happens or something like that. Or
we have a case. We have a case that when you say using force, right, on fleeing suspects.
Yeah,
we have a case. It's called Scott v. Harris. What you think that's applicable here, guys? Right? Isn't that our go-to case on this?
Well, yeah, that was about applying, like, using deadly force to stop the pursuit, intentionally using deadly force to stop the pursuit.
And what do you remember? What was it, Harris?
Yeah, I can't remember which was which. Like,
yeah. What party? Would you know what he was running for?
I don't remember.
Speeding.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah, about as unserious as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, so he was speeding, but then of course when he got lit up by the blues, so you can't say red and blues in Georgia, right? We got lit up by the blues. He took off like a bat out of hell and running through parking lots, a Walmart parking lot, which is a victimless crime. A Walmart parking lot. He hit a patrol car on the way out and so forth. Yeah, so they rammed him. They took him out, as they said on the radio. They took him out at around 90 miles per hour or so, and he became a quadriplegic. So, and the Supreme Court says that was objectively reasonable. Now look, but at the same time, look, I talk about these cases. I said, man, I just don't see the U.S. Supreme Court saying that we can't use force to stop these pursuits, right? But at the same time, I don't think it's game on. To my knowledge, Plumhoff, right? That one where they shot him because he was trying to cost $3 million to defend. That's the information I got. The Luna versus what's the trooper in Texas? Luna versus
Unix.
They shot him from the overpass.
Yeah.
Mullinex.
That
Yeah.
cost 3.5 million to defend. So if you keep winning like that, you're going to lose the war. So right?
Yeah. Manny, are you talking about using force to stop the pursuit or using force after
Like
you?
if force is a result of the pursuit. So now instead of like the moment of the threat, it's the totality of circumstances.
absolutely.
All right, we
Yeah.
chase. They stole a car. This is like the fourth car they probably stolen. It's the same suspects again. It results into a use of force at the end.
Oh
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think Felix versus Barnes is helpful for you there, right? At least as at least in Kavanaugh's concurrence, because the Supreme Court makes reference to the fact that they have repeatedly, time and time again, is like we talk about Arizona versus Johnson, you talk about Maryland versus Wilson, Pennsylvania versus Mims, Brennan versus California. Is the Supreme Court recognizing that traffic stops are inherently dangerous? Absolutely. And it drives me crazy when people say, oh, it's just a property crime, right? In your concurrence here in this United States Supreme Court case, they talk about how if somebody runs for a minor violation, well, that suggests strongly that there's something more going on there, doesn't there?
Correct.
There's something more that's underlying that you'll never know about. If you just let them go, right? Maybe that's Timothy McVeigh, right? Maybe they just kidnapped a child, right? Like they literally talk about that in the concurrence. And so you say, well, it's just a property crime. And shades of that in Chinyarian, right? But why do people steal cars? They steal cars to go commit other heinous crimes, right? Before I go knock over a drug house, before I go rip a drug house, what do? I steal a car. Before I go do a drive-by, what do? I steal a car. Before I go rob a bank, what do? I steal a car. So
Yeah.
some people, are they just joyriding? Sure. Other people, they are stealing those cars, just a property crime, to commit other very serious violent felonies.
Yep. And then Lisa says it's all obviously a lot of this comes down to the report. All right, Manny, we're gonna kick you loose. Anything else?
Nah, I appreciate it. That's really all I had to like ask and see what your opinions were on it.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. And one thing that I don't like is when policies say that you'll only consider the initial offense when deciding whether to pursue. I think that's kind of problematic, right? Because oftentimes it is for something very minor, but the fleeing itself is now part of the totality of the circumstances, right, John?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if your policy says that and it's a stop sign violation, and then they take off and ram into another vehicle, right? Or ram into a patrol car, that aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer, can I take that into consideration or not? Oop, policy
In
violation.
fact, the reckless driving. I mean, in Texas, pretty much all fleeing is a felony, and because they recognize how dangerous it is.
Yep.
What you got, Jay Waters?
Hey guys, thanks for the webinar. So I'm in Florida. A little bit of a scenario that happened a couple shifts ago. Unknown suspect walks into the Walmart with his own personal duffel bag. While in the Walmart, commits a misdemeanor retail theft. A part of the retail theft was him putting his personal duffel bag that he brought into the store inside of a backpack. Takes the backpack, puts one or two more stolen items inside of it. He goes to walk out, failing to render payment. There you got your retail theft. The loss prevention tries to stop him. While stopping him, they get into a little bit of a scuffle. During that scuffle, Walmart retrieves their property bag, that being the bag, which contained this guy's personal bag, and the suspect also drops the phone, or his phone, I'm sorry. So one of the LPOs, or one of the loss prevention guys, picks up the suspect's phone. The suspect runs out of the store. LPO yells at him, "Hey, I have your phone. You need to come back in." The guy voluntarily comes back in. And as he's going into the loss prevention office again, he takes off running again, leaving his phone behind, leaving his black bag behind. So obviously they call us out there, patrol the area, can't find the suspect, go to the loss prevention office, reeks of weed. My thought process was, okay, at this point, he's abandoned his black bag. So I searched the bag without a warrant, find trafficking amount of drugs. After I found trafficking amount of drugs, I'm looking through the bag still. I find an ID with this guy's name on it. Well, I didn't know it was his name, but it was his name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a credit card with his name on it. So before that, I knew that it was his actual credit card. I'm starting to think to myself, okay, we don't know who the suspect is. I'm going to get a search warrant for his phone so that way I can figure out who he is. Once I find that credit card, I go through the databases. I positively identify this guy as a suspect. So now in my head, I don't have a reason to get a search warrant for the phone. As I'm thinking through it, I'm thinking to myself, okay, but he abandoned his bag. So theoretically that he dropped it, whatever, he voluntarily left the store and left his phone behind. So then I was starting to think that, okay, can we now do a phone dump on this phone because he abandoned the phone? So my consensus at first was, yes, absolutely is abandoned property. He had multiple opportunities to come back, get the phone. Obviously the loss prevention officer is not a agent of the government, so we didn't do anything wrong. And then I started thinking, okay, maybe the phone was abandoned property, but is the content inside of the phone considered abandoned? Because now you can log into it from a different phone or a different computer. And obviously the phone dump will reveal all of that. So I was just trying to see your thoughts on if that's abandoned property, if the content inside the phone is also considered abandoned property, or if you try to work your way through a search warrant for the phone to obviously see where these drugs are coming and going to.
What do you guys think?
Was it locked, the phone? And was there
So when
something?
we got there, but before we got there, the phone was on and there was people calling him, but due to the time lapse, the phone died before we got there. So I don't know if it would have a lock on it, if it wouldn't, because we haven't manipulated it at all.
I mean, most phones do. I don't know. I don't think he's relinquished expectation of privacy in the digital contents of the phone just by dropping it. Because I mean, just assuming it's going to lock after a period of time. I mean, anybody walking by can't just pick it up and hook it up to Cellbrite or Gray Key and get all that data. So I don't think I don't know. Abandonment on phones is kind of hard for me as far
Well,
as the
what if it was
digital
a
contents.
duffel bag with a lock on it, and the cops cut the lock off?
Yeah, but that's easy to get into. Anybody can cut a lock off a phone, but not anybody can break a
What was it?
passcode.
It's what capacity they have. Yet
I mean, the theory is that anybody can come by and access that bag or whatever. Like anybody walking by. I guess that's where the expectation of privacy loss is. But with a
Well,
phone, I just see it differently.
I'm of the position that I'm going to give you this case, but there's also the Texas case that I'm trying to find, the one where they did download the phone. It was Harris County after a shooting. The suspect left it on top of a car. And I got to tell you, when I was reading that case, I was like, man, that's, they were like, it was like 16 hours later, Zach, that, it was a shooting, 6 suspects. They tried to take over a card house in Houston area. And they, this is not a podunk agency. And I'm like, man, you guys are, I mean, that's pretty bold, man, to download a phone 16 hours afterwards. You had plenty of time. It's a big case. And I'm reading this case and I'm kind of like going like this, like, man, I think it's abandoned, but are they going to lose this one? And the court said, abandoned. So I think I'm glad it all worked out because they needed that phone was like the key piece of evidence for everybody, right? And I say, hey, I'm glad it all worked out, but man, that was a bold move to download a phone without a warrant. So I think that they can. I just think that they shouldn't. And it's very hard to me, Zach. It's very hard to say I really expect privacy. I know that the cops probably have the phone. They got whiz bang computers. They can download phones. I just think that's part of the expectations. If you
But
let
it's
that
not
phone
that
get
it's
into
not
the
my
van,
it's not that I expect the cops can get into it. It's that anybody can get into it. That's I don't know. I
that's not
think
the
some of the
standard though, is
abandonment
it?
cases are a little.
So
What's
the
that?
standard is that as long as it's physically possible for a stranger to get into it, then it's right. Then it's abandoned. The
Well,
contents
that
are
was what
abandoned.
Greenwood was all about, like Snoops
Who?
and Greenwood. That's what California Greenwood put when the
Yeah,
trash
but
out.
I mean that's yeah, and that's I mean that's a trash context, but that's not what
Yeah.
it's all. I mean, how do you what about cops? You know, I mean, I have plenty of cases where cops are using a locksmith to get into cars that have been abandoned. So I
But
mean,
again,
I
those
would
are
have.
but all right, but that doesn't require any sophisticated
So I
technology to
just
get
don't
in
know
there.
if I don't know if they. I don't know. I'm just again. I can't see it that way. I can't say is we're gonna have to analyze the level of sophistication to get into the abandoned property. It's either abandoned or it's not. John, you have anything that
No,
feedback on that?
the only issue that I have is if we're looking at it from a level of sophistication or advanced technology, then no cell phone can ever be abandoned.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
put a
not
password on it, then you
that's
can
not
never. Where's that case at? And also it's really hard to get into Teslas. You know, um,
and to get
so
out
can
of
a
it.
Tesla ever be abandoned? I mean, you're breaking something to get into that thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I not abandoned, confiscated by officers. That's not the standard. The standard is would a person have a subject of expectation of privacy? The answer is probably yes. Maybe I can, because it has a password on it. Is it objectively reasonable? The answer is probably no. But I would get a warrant. Anything else?
No, I mean, my thought process on it was, um, if there's a random phone found on the street, absolutely not, because we don't know if this phone is
Mislaid.
abandoned or if it was just lost.
Yeah,
But because this guy doubled down, he dropped his phone. Yes, it was
totally.
an accident that he dropped his phone. Then he ran out of the store, and then the uh, employee said, "Hey, I have your phone. You need to come back in." He comes
Yep.
back inside, and then he doubles down on running out of the store, knowing that he's leaving his phone behind, knowing that he's abandoning it behind. It's just,
Yep.
yeah, for me, I think the physical property is abandoned. I just had the hard time with the content on the phone. I don't think that's necessarily abandoned.
Yeah. Look, I understand. I think you actually sold me more on it. Quite frankly, he did more than
So that's kind of where I got stuck. So we're going to download his entire phone.
So
Yeah. I mean, look, he shouldn't. Maybe he shouldn't run away from his phone next time.
the first time he ran out, right? We say, "Oh, that's a lost phone." So what can I do? I can make a limited search of that device for owner information. The second time, when he comes back and then intentionally affirmative conduct abandons that phone, leaves it behind, it is abandoned.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Andrew's talking about loss versus abandoned. The question for me is mislaid property versus abandoned. Mislaid property is when you have a reason to believe the person did not intend to, leave it behind. They mislaid it. They are seeking it out. They would, if given an opportunity, they would want to come back and grab it. That's generally, that's the difference between leaving your wallet behind at the convenience store because you got a emergency phone call and you just forgot your wallet versus robbing the joint and leaving the wallet behind when it's abandoned. Zach is saying that, yeah, that's fine. He's probably fine with that because it's the level of sophistication. But I've just never seen a case. I mean, Greenwood is not really. It's never seen a case that says it all depends on how much work it takes to get into the item. I just never seen that.
Well,
Uh,
can I just say that you all have just proven why the reasonable expectation of privacy test is circular and it makes it's
100%.
just it's not.
And judges matter, huh?
Yeah.
Judges absolutely
Well,
matter.
under
All
a
right.
physical intrusion test, this is a search, and I think it's still his property. So anyway, that's a debate for.
Oh, I see. Right, but yeah, and that's a kind of a tough one
He
too.
hasn't
It
he
still
hasn't
has to be.
relinquished he hasn't lost his possessory interest in it.
Yeah, he has.
No, he hasn't. He
He
hasn't.
abandoned it.
Not his possessory interest, his privacy interest, maybe. It's
No,
still his phone.
he absolutely has lost his possessory in a sense. I mean, he's lost if he wants to. That's the trash case. If he wants to just leave it at a Walmart and run away from it and never do anything, even though he's given the opportunity to get it back, he's definitely lost. I mean, it's trash. One man's trash is a man's treasure. No, I don't see it that way. I think he has a big problem. I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. I just think under possessory, but he has a problem. He definitely has an issue trying to convince me at least that he has a protected interest in that phone. But anyway, all right, Waters. Good talk. I like it. All right, Rick, who's next? We got a few more minutes here. You're welcome. That was a good scenario, Waters, for sure. All right. Okay. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, good evening, gents. Can y'all hear me?
Hey, first of all, we got Gary Chapman here too. I didn't see, there's a lot of people here, so I didn't. What's up, Gary? Gary's the son of Dog and Bounty Hunter, and we actually did I did a podcast with Gary and his dad recently in Florida, so that should be coming out soon, Gary. So glad to have you here. What's up, Nathan? What you got?
Hey, fellas. First off, appreciate the webinar. That was great. So I'm out of Texas. Pretty new. I've got about a year and a half on the road right now. Given that I'm new, I'm still trying to kind of figure out all the case law pieces. But I've got some guys that are on my team. We'll do some traffic stops. Since we're Texas, we do still have odor of marijuana. I know try and do a little bit more than that, but
Yep.
we pull guys out. Hey, we're going to go ahead and toss your car, but then they'll turn around and without asking for consent, without having like the presumptive like this person's going to be under arrest, they start going in pockets.
Oh, in the people's pockets.
Yeah, and so they say that basically because you smell like marijuana, because the vehicle you were in smelled like marijuana, now I'm going to search your pockets. And then they don't find anything, whatever. Hey guys, y'all have a good night. And they send them home. And
Right.
even if they do find it, I mean, unless they've got a gun, unless they're doing a little bit more, I mean, we're not super concerned with it. But
Sure.
also, that seems like a little bit outside of our scope without having either that knowledge that hey, this person's going to be under arrest and we're going to make that search incident to arrest. I mean, we're not even issuing the citations for this. We're just kind of kicking these guys loose.
Well, yeah, you're looking for the evidence, and then you decide whether or not you're going to charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like how many dead bodies do they have? If it's only one or two, then maybe you give them a verbal warning. All right. So the question is, can we search the occupants of a vehicle if we smell the odor of cannabis emanating from the car? John, do you want to take a stab at this first?
Sure. So basically, when we're talking about PC for a vehicle, right? We're saying the odor of marijuana inside a vehicle. Marijuana is illegal in your state. And so, does the odor of marijuana give me probable cause to believe that there is evidence of a crime inside that vehicle? Yeah. If you want to get into, burned versus fresh, obviously fresh is better. Burned, they're going to argue that they were smoking weed someplace else and maybe they burned it all up, regardless if it's illegal in your state, rock and roll, right? So the question then becomes is, does probable cause for the vehicle give me probable cause for everyone inside the vehicle? And the answer is no, right? United States versus D. Ray, that's D-I space R-E. It's a 1948 case. Said basically just because you are in a vehicle that someone has probable cause for, the Carroll doctrine does not extend to all occupants of the vehicle. Instead, what you need to do is you need to articulate a nexus between the crime, the probable cause, and that individual. And so, with regard to the driver, if you have PC for the vehicle, do you have PC for the driver? I would say almost always yes. The vehicle is a container, and so they are exercising dominion control over that container. And so, if I have PC for the vehicle, do I have PC for the driver? Sure, but I'm not relying on the Carroll doctrine to search the driver. I'm going to be relying on search incident custodial arrest or exigency based on destruction of evidence if I'm not doing custodial arrest. With regard to the passengers, though, you're going to need some kind of a nexus, some kind of an articulation as to say, why do I believe that that person has narcotics on them, right? Just being in the vehicle is not enough. So, where did the dog alert? Are they showing indications of extreme and unusual and persistent nervousness? Looking at them, am I seeing indications of an active drug user lifestyle like meth mouth, meth mites, hair's fallen out? They got burns on their fingertips, burns on their lips. They smell like drugs. They've got track marks, no body fat on them. They are emaciated, jaundiced, right? Um, Other than that, if you're going to search them, you're going to have to convince me that you have probable cause to believe that they have evidence of that crime on them. And then it's going to be search incident to custodial arrest, or you're going to articulate exigency. If I let them go, they will destroy that evidence that they have on their person. But you got to convince a court that there is a nexus between the vehicle, the contraband, the PC there, and that individual passenger.
Now there is a case out of Texas talking about like it was a confined space, right? That's part of it. They had like three people in the car, maybe four. And the officer testified that it was like, I don't know what word they used, but overwhelming, strong, whatever. It was something like an adjective, not just I smell marijuana, I search everybody. And the court did uphold it in that case. I'm not sure what court of appeals it was out of, so it may not be binding on you. But it's not hard to do, but you do have to cross that threshold. We don't like cops going into court saying, oh yeah, cars smell like marijuana, so we start searching everybody. That's how you lose cases, right? That's how you get stuff suppressed.
Got it. So like a good nexus would be, we found a bag underneath the passenger seat, therefore we have reason to believe that maybe the passenger was the one who had placed that there. Okay.
Yeah. And look, and there's also this process elimination argument too. You smell marijuana, fresh marijuana. John's right on that whole marijuana thing. A good defense attorney will call you on like, what do you mean? What kind of marijuana? Because marijuana has different smells, right? I mean, burnt and raw and remnants, right? You're around people that maybe your clothes start smelling like you live in San Francisco. So like, what kind of, maybe some raw marijuana. And then you search the car, you don't find anything. Maybe the next person in line is that driver because they're usually more culpable because they have almost like constructive possession of stuff in the car. And then you go from there and you look at the passengers, all these things that John said, about their, telltale signs that they're an active drug user. It's all that stuff. So just articulate it, but you should be okay.
Okay. I know you're talking also is.
Go ahead.
I know you're also talking about kind of the burnt versus the fresh smell. I know a lot of times when we do have that, I know for myself, like truthfully, my nose is just not that great. I can smell it sometimes. Sometimes I'll just completely miss it. But one of the things that I'll try and do is kind of get them to tell me that it smells like that, right? Hey, when was the last time you guys smoked in here? That kind of thing. I mean, does that limit me then, since we're talking about stuff that's previously burnt?
Well, look, there are cases. I mean, look, Texas is Texas. Okay, let's not forget where we work. Okay, you don't work in Minnesota or a place like that. But the reality is that there are court cases that are coming out where cops are not doing a good job articulating stuff, and they'll say, I believe that they smoked in the vehicle, right? And one case is like, well, you don't get the trunk because why would it's like an open container issue. Like, why do you think there's any evidence in the trunk? Another case is came out. I forget what states, California, stuff like that. I smell odor of burnt marijuana, and then the cop couldn't put his finger on or couldn't articulate that it was actually like a here and now thing. Like, yeah, it happened like while they're like recently, like while they're driving, versus this whole I guess they maybe smoked in the past, right? Because if you like we all three of us drive a lot of rental cars, and a lot of our rental cars unfortunately smell like weed. But it could have been days ago that somebody smoked in that car, right? But it still smells. Sure. So if we have a cop that stops us and like, hey, I'm tossing your car, why? Because it smells like somebody smoked marijuana in his car. Well, yeah, that's all you got. I mean, right? You got to rent a car with sober drivers that are not up to anything. We're going to be 10 and 2, yes sir, no sir, all this kind of stuff. So I know the point is we live in a world of articulation, and you got to do your best job possible. We have books on this, by the way. The report writing book, and we have an RSPC pocket guide that talks about issues like this, but you got to really up your A game on the articulation. And it's basically what Shakespeare said. He said, ye who articulates the most wins. He didn't say that, but I know that he would. All right. Keep up the good fight out there. Check out the books. Go to bluetogold.com. Check out the books, man. All right. Who has maybe one more question, then we're going to call it a day. It's past Zach's bedtime. All right. All right. Let's see if we can. We'll call it a day after this. What's up, Brett? What you got?
Yeah. Hi, Anthony. One of the comments that John made was a very right on target point. As far as traffic stops are concerned, if you have a situation where basically now we are saying to the public, okay, we light them up, pull them over, and then they could just take off and run indiscriminately. I know we got to this point. Now, at what point do we now as in the case of Barnes and Felix, are we heading? Are we going to be getting to a point where, okay,
It's,
we going
almost
to be
like
doing
incentivize
this,
them.
or are we going to just let people run, or
Yep.
it's, I get it, totality of circumstances. I get it. If it's a felony, if it's a serious felony that it committed, all those kind of things you got to take into account whether or not we're going to actually, make a pursuit or not. But now we have a situation, especially with this here, it gets out, what do we have now? We open a Pandora's box of a situation where everybody says a free for all, let's all take off.
Where do you work, Brett? What state?
Maryland. I'm sorry.
Have you heard about the Californians, the whole where they are soft on crime out there and, softer than Maryland, and where it's like shoplifters delight out there. They ransack stores because there's no
Yes, sir.
consequences. Have you heard about those cases?
Yes, sir.
And you also know, from just big cities that don't chase, like Seattle, they run all the time. They just run all the time, right? Because they know that Seattle won't chase. So are you saying basically it's like a perverse incentive, right? If you don't put your foot down at some degree and like start actually enforcing crime, people start taking advantage of your lax rules, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. So where do we go from here now?
Well, didn't Zach? Didn't the Supreme Court talk about that? Like, was it Kavanaugh that made a little mention about that issue? The
Yeah,
perverse
I mean,
incentive?
Kavanaugh spent a lot of time on it, both the oral argument. That's what his whole concurrence was about. This is a policy consideration. I don't think this is a legal issue. I can't see a court,
Yeah, they can't. They can't probably. I mean,
saying
yeah.
just categorically you can't. You can't pursue. If all you have is a traffic infraction. I mean, Kavanaugh makes some very good points as to why a police officer might feel it's necessary to jump on the car to prevent the escape. And I think you have a really hard time rebutting all of those justifications. So this is a policy issue. Now, I know some state doesn't Oregon or is it Washington? Don't they have some kind of statutory prohibition on pursuits? I mean, they have a state
Oh yeah,
law
yeah,
that
and also
governs.
reasonable suspicion. I think
Yeah.
they lifted it up a little bit, but
And
but
New
look,
Jersey has some AG guidelines and just
yeah, I
but those are
mean,
policy issues, not.
yeah, and Brett, I like to say, look, if it was me, if I had a magic wand, we'd be chasing everybody. You know what I mean? But the problem is, it may be a lifestyle you can't afford, because even if we win these cases at the U.S. Supreme Court or at the lower court, even if we win, we get qualified immunity. It's very expensive. I mean, just even if besides the fact that it can cause some bad outcomes, it is a lifestyle that a lot of agencies cannot afford. Chasing everybody, because it adds up. It results in a lot of lawsuits. And it's part of the game that we're playing. So, anyway, so it's a great question. Definitely a policy. The law generally is in our favor, but it's purely policy, like Zach said.
And what pursuits is hard. I mean, because with pursuits, there's no, I've always called vehicle pursuits, as following and hoping for a
Mhm.
good outcome. We
Yep.
really have very few effective means to intervene in pursuits, and that's what we really need to be focusing on, is how can we end these things? They got the star chase thing. I mean, it has some,
But that's
it
kind
has,
of,
I mean,
it's
it has its
expensive, and
place, but
yeah.
that's really what I think what it boils down to is we need
I believe in missiles. I believe that you just target a missile and it
just
knows that car. It's like AI driven. It's not blind. It's not heat seeking. Okay, I don't want to be indiscriminate, but I'm serious. Just blow the car up to smithereens.
after we give a warning.
Okay, fine. I'll give a warning. But the missile gives the warning. It has a
There you
speaker
go.
on the
All right.
front,
All
and
right.
it's
There,
like
it's coming. Yep.
it's kind of like I want to give that warning like 10 feet before it smacks into that Honda, into that Nissan Altima and blows the thing to smithereens. All right. Thanks, Brett. All right, so guys, that's our show, and I appreciate you guys. It was a great show, John. I appreciate your time. You look exhausted. You might be a little exhausted. You need some bedtime. Okay.
Hey, you know what? Every day when you come to one of our classes, it is 8 hours of a show, man, right? I mean,
It is.
it
It's
is.
a lot of energy. I tell you, if I was on, when I do shows on Wednesday nights, it's a hard day because I have to, I put a lot of time in. And Zach, you're awesome as always. Thank you for, giving a lot of context for this case. and some of the background story too. So thank you guys so much
Right.
for our audience. Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
See you, John. See you, Anthony.
Take care.